All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about blood sorcery. Now, we've all heard of bloodletting and blood sorcery, and a lot of times you don't see or hear about this within a historical or mythological context, not just in actual practice. A lot of individuals on social media either will shy away when it is brought up, or they'll inquire, what's it entail? How do you do it? What are the procedures and the necessary tools that need to be implemented? How does it relate to religious or spiritualism within the context of, say, demonolatry, or giving offerings to the Loa or the Orisha? Okay, there's a lot of context here that a lot of people don't realize. One of the questions I received on a post earlier today was, can menstrual blood be associated with this? The answer is yes, of course. And the name of this context is hemomancy. Okay, hemomancy. It is blood sorcery. It is also considered to be a subdivision of necromantic practices. Okay, and this is stuff that has been around for hundreds of thousands of years, long before Christianity. Even though Christianity themselves has numerous doctrines that state that they've actually performed human and animal sacrifices. Look at the book of Leviathan, not Leviathan, but the book of Leviticus, for an example. It's known as the book of the law, okay? And here you will see the context of the burnt offerings and what they entail and how they are applied to the tabernacle, okay? The tabernacle itself. And it's very interesting to see how the animal or the carcass is displayed. The main carcass is burnt. The entrails are left on the altar. And the blood is placed in a chalice or some kind of vial or vase and placed in front of the inner sanctum. Okay? So the fact that Christians today say, oh, we don't do this because of such and such a reason, well, guess what? It's right here in your literal Bible. Okay? You go back into the book of Genesis, for an example, and you have another form of sacrifice known as human sacrificing. Whereas the animal sacrificing happens to be the primary thing within the book of Leviticus, we see here the human sacrifice, okay? The body count, if you wish. You look at, for an example, Abraham, as he was called and known today, ordered to sacrifice his own son, Isaac, to test his loyalty to the gods. Okay? Human and animal sacrifice. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. An entire village was supposedly wiped out because of their homophobic, agenda. So these are just a couple of examples from the JCI Bible, the Judeo-Christian institutions. When we get into Islamic traditions, animal sacrificing plays a huge part in this. Not just the Jewish or the Hebrew, where people are stoned to death for not believing their ways. Look at Paul in the New Testament, for an example, or Lazarus, even the centurion's daughter. Forms of necromancy right there. Now, what's interesting to note is that worldwide in occult literature, We also see the Aztecs performing human and animal sacrificing. A lot of the time at the same exact moment. Okay? They strap the individual down and they rip the beating heart from their chest to offer to the sun god Inti. Okay? This is the Incan version of it. However, when you get into the Aztecs, their Aztecs are either going their traditions are either going to the sun god or the Lord of the Dead. Okay, their rites and rituals were brutal, bloody, and most importantly, very impressive. Not just from a spiritualist perception. Druids, the ancient Druids in ancient Gaelic, had the same technique. They would tie an individual or an animal down. They would do a performance of what is known as bloodletting. And there's a prime example is in Salem, New Hampshire. The table of the offering is right there, where it shows the scraps of where the person was tied down, or the animal was tied down. And you see the little crevice where the blood would flow freely and traverse that little crevice and go underneath the altar, where a priest, a druid, would be standing with a vase to catch the blood. This is elemental sorcery, nature to be precise. You go into occultism. Let's go Hermetics, Kabbalah, Middle Eastern, such as Babylonia, Sumerian, Akkadian, okay, Syriac. Here you see blood sorcery being associated with gems and other occult techniques, such as consecration of knives, athames, doing blood rites and rituals to in the form of alchemy. Okay, the alchemist is a prime example. Going to Egyptian, you get the Shem priests who performed embalming techniques, mummification, bloodletting, and most importantly, removal of key, or I should say, what is commonly referred to as the four organ removals, okay, that the individual would need if they ever return to this realm, okay? They would wash the body, take prime care of that individual's corpse just to do this. When we go into Greek and Roman necromancy, we see another variation of this. We got three different variations to be precise. In Greek, you have necromancy, meaning the art of corpse divination. This is conjuration of spirits, okay? Or rejuvenation, as Eliphas Levi so colorfully put it. In Roman, you have nigromancy, okay? Nigromancy is the art of black magic and associated as the number one feared religious practice out there, okay? But once you get into ancient Greek, and we head back into ancient Greek, you got what is known as Nicaea. Nicaea's rites and rituals not only dealt with bloodletting and blood offerings, just like occultism in general. And it's very interesting to see their techniques and what they were used for within the form of the essence, the soul, the spirit, spiritus. When you get into the African Caribbean traditions, blood sorcery is way too common. The Hungan and the Mambo, okay, the Papa or the Mamba, depending if we're talking Dominican Republic or Haitian Voodoo, or that of just Voodoo in general within the African, traditions. Going as far back as the Yoruba people, or you can go into the Congo regions of the Benin. Okay, for an example, these rites were the beheading of dogs, the blood being sprayed upon the altar, There's a reason why Palo Mayombe and Palo Monte is considered to be the people of the sticks. It goes all the way back into the Congo regions of Africa. Blood sorcery and bloodletting techniques of both human and animal alike have been associated with just about every single religious foundation throughout history. It's not just associated today with Satanism or demonolatry. These practices are ancient techniques. People today are just ignorant in this aspect because they don't know any better. You consider the most, in my opinion, the most fourth expert in this field would be Sorceress Cagliastro, the necromancer. She wrote the book, The Blood Sorcery Bible, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Okay? And what's interesting to note here is that she gives at least 20 pages, if not more, just on medical techniques, on how to perform bloodletting, blood sorcery. Okay? A lot of things like chemomancy go unchecked. And this is because this type of practice is now associated with the medical field. Okay? And it's interesting to note that according to society today, you have to have a medical license to perform such rites. You have to either be a vet, you have to be a doctor or a physician to perform such rites. Whereas in the religious context, a priest or a priestess who have earned their stature performs these rites now, just about on a daily basis. I mean, you look at the what is known as the green cards in the Southwest of the United States, or that down in Mexico, okay, Central and South America, it is because of all the animal and human sacrifice. You got all these groups out there, like the one down in Florida that's supposedly animal recovery units, okay, the protection of animals. Well, this is just bullshit because of the fact that history has shown that everything from religious context to butchers slaughter animals on a daily basis. Look at farmers. You don't see people crying over the cattle that they send to a butcher to be slaughtered for hamburger so you can eat your food. You don't see what they do with the blood, the carcasses. You don't see these groups going after them. No. It's always about religious context, and it's always coming from a Judeo-Christian perspective context. This here shows a huge, huge misunderstanding and well, let's just call it the way it is, hypocrisy of the world. Christians do it all the time with their bloodletting techniques, their sacrifices, their offerings. Every religious foundation's done it since the dawn of man, going as far back as the Paleolithic era. I don't expect you to believe me in what I say. But what I do expect is that you take what I say with a grain of salt and you get your ass out there and you look it up for yourself. I want you to do the work for yourself, not because some idiot on a screen says, hey, homomancy or necromancy is this, this, and this. No. I want you to go out and do the work yourself because you're going to get more out of it from a beneficial standpoint than by somebody telling you face to face. I mean, look at the world today and the stature of the world today. Because so many things are told to you face to face, you believe it without question. And yet, I just went through a half a dozen different religious practices, going as far back as the ancient Gaelic systems, the ancient Greece, ancient Egyptian. I'm talking first, second, and third dynasty practices. You get into the Hashishin priesthood, which originated in Egypt, by the way, Giza, to be precise, went right up through the Middle East into Pakistan, 10th century to the 13th century, before they were wiped out by the Mongolians. It's ironic just how much knowledge of the human body, the human anatomy that these priests actually had. They weren't just assassins. They were highly religious people. They were a secret order, just like the Shem priesthood is. But yet the Shem priest had multiple different degrees of priesthood. Each level had a responsibility, not only to the temple and to the spirits, but also to the public. Some of them were even run out of town. But it comes down to the belief structure. Don't let yourself be fooled. Look into these ancient rites and rituals. And I guarantee it, the veil will be pulled back and you will no longer be seeing the bullshit lies that society has told you and led you to believe. You're going to do it for you and you're going to learn for yourself. You want to be enlightened? Or do you want to stay stagnant in hypocrisy and lies? That's on you. Choice is yours. Have a good day.